Hi, this is just a quick video looking at operant conditioning and token economy programs, which is the method of treatment which comes from operant conditioning. So remember, operant conditioning is kind of an alternative or an extra bit to classical. Whereas classical is learning via association, operant is learning via reinforcement. So this all comes back to Thorndike and the law of effect. So remember, Thorndike used to be able to put cats in like boxes, things like this in this picture. And it would brush against this paddle. When it did, the door would open. The cat learned through doing this lots and lots and lots of times that brushing against the paddle would open the door, till eventually, as soon as you put it in the box, it would press down on the button to open the door. It had learned via reinforcement. This is the law of effect, remember? If the result of a behaviour is good, it will be repeated. If the result of a behaviour is bad, it will not be repeated. And it's this kind of law of effect which gave us the concepts of operant conditioning. There's a quick summary of Thorndike's puzzle box, everything I've just said there. It's also an example of trial and error learning. So the cat learned what the button in the box did by trial and error. And it's believed that we all go through this, and again, it's that reinforcement process that when we do something by error and something good happens, we will do it again. Skinner was a classic person that looked at operant conditioning. He's the one that talks about positive and negative reinforcement and punishment. So throughout this, Skinner did lots of things. He taught pigeons to play ping pong. He taught dolphins to defuse or to set off bombs during World War II. There was a lot of things that Skinner could do. Famously also had his Skinner box. So again, similar process to the Thorndike box, except instead of escaping, the animals would get food. So by pressing down on a lever or on a button, there would be a light and a noise that let them know that they did it right, and then food would be released. Remember, originally they would do this by accident. They would move around and accidentally knock against the lever, and it would deliver food. But over time, they would learn that pressing the lever gave them food. We also did it another way, where we electrocuted the rats until they pressed the button. So they would be in a constant level of discomfort until they pressed the button, which would remove the discomfort. And it's these sort of experiments with the Skinner box that really clarified and defined different things within operant conditioning. So the first one is positive reinforcement. So positive reinforcement is a reward. If you are given positive reinforcement for something, whether it's food, sweets, verbal praise from your teacher telling you how well you've done, you are more likely to do that. So if you receive a reward, a positive reinforcement, it will increase a behaviour. Punishment is the opposite. Punishment decreases the likelihood of a behaviour. If you do something and then are punished for it, it will decrease the chances of you doing that again. Classic examples are things like at school you get detention, your parents might ground you, they might take your phone away. Any sort of punishment will reduce the set behaviour that it's meant to reduce. The last one that people often get difficulty with or have difficulty with is negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement increases a behaviour. So if we negatively reinforce you, whatever behaviour you've just done will increase. And it works by removing an unpleasant stimulus. So like the rat in the cage, we electrocute it until it presses the button. Once it presses the button, the electric shock stops. The rat learns to press the button. The button pressing behaviour increases. It might work the same way. Say that your teacher has given you detention or that they've given you extra homework. And what will happen is that you behave extra well or you turn in a really good piece of work, and so your teacher says, okay, what I'm going to do is forget that detention. You no longer have to worry about detention this week. It acts as a reward. It's a reward by taking away something negative. There's a couple more key terms. These are again just some examples. A couple of key terms. There's shaping. So shaping is where we kind of only reward behaviour that gets closer and closer to the ideal behaviour. So the first time when a baby's learning to speak, it may make a noise that sounds a bit like mum, and so you give it lots of praise and you reward it and things like that. But over time, you're only going to start rewarding it if it gets closer and closer to the actual word. So we refine a behaviour by making it more and more difficult to get the praise or that positive reinforcement that you want over time. And there's primary and secondary reinforcers. And primary reinforcers are things that satisfy our basic needs or fulfill our want for something. So food, sex, water, it can be other things as well. We will often talk about, and we will in talking economies, talk about primary reinforcers being anything that we actually want. And a secondary reinforcer is literally something that's worth nothing that we exchange for a primary reinforcer. So the example I use is money is a secondary reinforcer. The money itself is not worth anything. It's only worth something if you can exchange it. It's the same principle if you had a star system when you were in primary school. You would get stars throughout the week, and once you'd built up so many stars, once you'd got enough stars, you would get a treat on a Friday afternoon. The treat is the thing you actually wanted, but the stars were your means to getting that. So this sort of question you get a question like this asking you how could we use operant conditioning to change Sally's behaviour, and this was the mark scheme that was available for that. And it's all talking about, I'll give you a chance to read it, it's all talking about either giving a positive reinforcement to increase good behaviours or punishment to decrease bad behaviours. And what we have to do really is just think of examples all the way through. Give me examples of how it could work. Token economy is one of the treatments you could know. Token economy is a treatment that uses operant conditioning as its basis, and that should be kind of the first sentence we say in an exam question to describe token economy. It uses operant conditioning. So it's a method of behaviour modification where you get tokens for desirable behaviours for desirable behaviours, and we ignore undesirable behaviours. The entire purpose of this is to increase behaviours that we want to see and decrease behaviours that we don't want to see. It works again on the principle of the law of effect, and it involves positive reinforcers and primary and secondary reinforcers. So someone, a teacher or a doctor or whoever is in charge, prison guard is a classic example, comes up with a list of behaviours that they want to see. So we've got a list of behaviours on the wall that we want to see in class, and everyone in the class knows what they are. Whether it's checking your spelling, checking through your homework before handing it in, whether it is putting your hand up to ask a question, whatever it happens to be. So you've got this list of behaviours on the wall, and every time you do one of these behaviours, so every time you put your hand up, your teacher comes over and instantly gives you a secondary reinforcer. You get a particular token, or you get a star, or you get a merit, or something like that. Once you get enough merits by the end of the term, or by the end of the half term, you can exchange it for some other prize. Again, this works in prisons, this works in mental health hospitals, where if you get so many tokens, you can get things like your own choice of music. And that's how it works. It just works through primary reinforcement, secondary reinforcement, and positive reinforcement. So there's 8 particular steps, and the 2 in red are just ones that students often miss out. You have to make sure that the people actually want the rewards that they can be offered. If the reward isn't very good, no one is going to do the behaviour. And number 6, give feedback on progress. You need to let the people know how they are doing and what they need to change. So when we're doing a token economy, when you're designing one or talking about one, make sure you come up with examples of what is a desired behaviour and what you're going to use as tokens and what the rewards are going to be. There is this gradual change, this shaping process going on where we make them harder to get. So after a while, it might be that you need to get a certain grade on a piece of work in order to get the tokens required. And these are the bullet points, again, talking about how we would use a token economy. I'll let you read through those yourselves. You can pause the video. I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of evaluation points. There are more. We did more in class, but just some of the supporting bits of evidence. So Field looked at total economy programs for young people with behavioural problems, youth offenders, and found that it improved their behaviour, and you can tailor it to individuals. So 2 strengths out of that. You can have different rewards, different behaviours that you're looking for each person in a class or each person in a young offenders institute, so you are helping that individual person. Alon and Azrin looked at schizophrenic patients who were working on a token economy program. They showed lots of negative behaviours at the start, And by the end of it, they were showing lots of positive behaviours. So again, this showed that total economy programme works. These were some of the other evaluation points, or prompts for the other evaluation points we discussed in class. Again, you can have a look at these, and we will obviously be going over this in revision, and you do have the notes for this in your notebooks. And lastly, another study, O'Leary and O'Leary, show its effectiveness in schools. Thanks.